Major warning from former President Donald Trump after the news about this NYC trucker protest. So he's talking about the possibility of an economic crash within the next 12 months. He says the only reason it's running now is it's running off the fumes of what the Trump administration did. So Trump also picked up on the trucker protest on his Truth Social platform, saying it's such an honor to have so many great patriots on the side of freedom, and how Joe Biden's unfair and dangerous weaponization of law enforcement is a serious threat to democracy. What Trump wants to do? Make America great again. He also warned that the country is in the greatest danger it's ever been. This as truckers say that their protest could shut New York City down. One estimate said that if New York loses just 10% of the trucks that go in there, their prices are going to skyrocket on everything, from milk to eggs to any type of goods that the consumer needs. So I get what Trump is saying, and I get why 42% of Americans felt Trump would be the best steward of the US economy, while only 31% chose Biden. Real incomes have dropped by 1% since Biden took office. Under Trump, real incomes were up about 3%. Groceries, housing, gas, all of these are pushing people further and further into debt, they say. Nearly 70% of Americans said that the economy is getting worse, while only 22% said that the economy is improving. All of this discontent, dissatisfaction with the economy, I'm surprised we didn't see more protests come up sooner. As Chicago Ray, the trucker influencer who started to talk about the NYC protests, said he's hearing guys refusing loads in Wisconsin, and this could take longer than a week. His advice for New Yorkers is start stocking up, as there's millions of truckers for Trump. The last thing that he said on his post, leave Trump TF alone. So let's talk about that right now. The current situation of the US economy and why Trump is predicting a crash in the next 12 months. We're going to compare economic data from now and the time when Trump is in charge, plus all the other reasons why truckers are picking up on the call to protest New York City. Stay tuned, you guys. By the way, before we dive any further into this, all I ask is that you take 1 second, drop a quick like for the video. Totally appreciate it. And I really cannot thank you guys enough for always sharing these videos. It really helps get the message out and it helps the channel out a ton. So a priority for Trump when he comes back into the White House is security. Check this out.
When I'm back in the White House, we will mount an all-out campaign to stop the scourge of violent crime in America. We're going to stop it. Upon my inauguration, I will direct a completely overhauled DOJ to investigate every radical, out-of-control prosecutor in America for their illegal, racist, and reverse enforcement of the law. Then we will smash the gangs, the street crews, and the criminal networks that are tearing up our country. They're tearing up our country. They have criminal networks that are like businesses. They're run better than most businesses, and they're run viciously and violently. It's not NRA members who are shooting up their communities, so instead of trying to eviscerate the rights of law-abiding gun owners, I will have federal law enforcement prosecute the countless gun crimes committed by gang members, drug dealers, and convicted felons.
Security is a concern for truck drivers as well. That's what Mexican truck drivers are protesting as they block major roads in their country. Here in the US too. I hear truck drivers getting mugged or worse, getting killed on the road. Some even say that truck drivers need the right to carry without losing their jobs. A lot of them agree with Trump on a lot of issues. They say that America needs a strong leader that hates crime and the drug problem like the rest of the law-abiding citizens and people of America. What do you guys think? That's why many were enraged when Trump was fined a whopping $355 million by Manhattan judge Arthur Ergonon. Not only that, our former president was also barred from serving as an officer or director of any company in New York City for 3 years. Instigated by truck driver Chicago Ray's viral boycott post, several truckers are now refusing to accept loads for New York City. Many have now come out to issue darling threats that their protests will paralyze New York. So according to the original post from Chicago Ray, which has now been taken down after roughly 6 million views, under some very suspicious circumstances, he had spoken to at least 10 truck drivers who will start refusing loads headed to New York City. Soon, that video had nearly 7 million views but was deleted, possibly because of government pressure, but we may never know. Chicago came back to say many truckers are joining in and that this could take longer than a week, so New Yorkers should definitely start stocking up. So Donald Trump as well said that he's hoping for an economic crash within the next 12 months to improve his chances of beating Joe Biden in the November presidential election. He said that the only reason that the US economy is running now is because it's running off of the fumes of what he did when he was in office. So basically, we're just running off of fumes. He went on to say that the country is in the greatest danger it's ever been, and a big portion of that is because we have a leader that doesn't know what to do, noting that there was no money going to Hamas, no money going to Hezbollah before Biden took office. When asked what he plans to do to help citizens that are financially struggling should he take office, Trump said he'll be drilling. He will be reducing energy. That will bring down inflation. That will bring down interest rates. He's probably talking about the proposed Keystone XL Pipeline project. The pipeline, which would run through Alberta, Canada, and Nebraska, was set to move up to 830,000 barrels of crude oil daily. This was championed by Trump. This all sounds very positive to make our country a nice place to live again. But shortly after Biden took office in 2021, he canceled the pipeline's border crossing permit over long-standing concerns that burning oil sands crude could make climate change worse and harder to reverse. Trump also talked about how his administration created a better economy than Biden's. The 3-year inflation rate under Biden is 17.2%, an average of 5.9% per year. Under Trump, inflation averaged 1.9% during each year of his presidency, or 7.6% over the course of his 4-year term. So things are definitely getting heated, guys, and we're just getting started. So Trump called the lawsuits against him an election interference ploy. This is partly what's got New York City truck drivers up in arms for the former president, because they know how ridiculous this is, especially when you consider how voters are leaning toward Trump right now when it comes to the economy. If you're an incumbent president running for re-election, you have to convince voters that they're better off than they were 4 years earlier. This is where Joe Biden is running into trouble. So Biden's approval rating is stuck at around 40%, and Americans rate his handling of the economy even worse. In a recent New York Times poll, swing state voters said that they trusted the former president Donald Trump over Biden on economic issues by 59 to 37%, the biggest gap on any issue. The most telling metric is average hourly earnings adjusted for inflation. This single chart may explain better than any poll why Biden is struggling with voters. Real incomes have dropped by about 1% since Biden took office. Under Trump, real incomes were up about 3%. Biden's underperformance is entirely due to inflation, which on the whole has risen more than nominal income during this term. Biden's not the worst on this measure though. Jimmy Carter and George W. Bush score worse. Both of them notably lost re-election bids. Another category in which Trump is ahead of Biden is stock market performance. So basically, you got a lot of Americans dissatisfied with the current administration, and they're seeing the real result of this in the talk about trucker protests in New York City. See, far more Americans trust Donald Trump to handle the U.S. economy than Joe Biden. The survey for the Financial Times and the University of Michigan Ross School of Business found that 42% of Americans felt Trump would be the best steward of the U.S. economy, while 31% chose Biden. And let's not forget about the recent judicial report referring to Biden as an elderly man with a poor memory. As Biden tries to sell Americans on an economic rebound, most Americans just are not buying it. Groceries, housing, gas, all of these are pushing more people further and further into debt. Nearly 70% of Americans said that the economy is getting worse, while only 22% said that the economy is improving. 84% of Americans said that the cost of living is rising, and nearly half of Americans, 49%, blame food and grocery prices as the main driver. Now, as I read a lot of times in our comment section, it's getting harder and harder to survive out there with little bits of money that we do make. That's probably part of the reason why these truckers have now gone out threatening that their protests will paralyze New York City. One trucker said that they're going to stand up for something and that this is on, man. So Biden's been talking up Bidenomics for a long time now, basically laying out his plan to boost the middle class and keep the economy humming along. He's been all about ramping up domestic manufacturing, dishing out cash for massive infrastructure projects, and teaming up with Democratic buddies in Congress to rein in the cost of things like insulin and prescription drugs. The folks over at the White House have been patting themselves on the back, pointing to stats like the super low unemployment rate, a ton of new jobs created during Biden's time in office, about 13.5 million, and even a drop in inflation. But despite all of these seemingly good numbers, only about a third of Americans seem to think that Biden's doing a good job with the economy. Yep, just 34% approve, while a whopping 59% aren't too thrilled about how he's handling things. More Americans said that they trust Trump than Biden to improve the economy by a 47 to 36 margin. The spread is 46 to 26 in Trump's favor among independent voters. Nearly all Republicans surveyed expressed pessimism about the economy. According to the poll, 96% said it's getting worse, not better. But 76% of independents And even 34% of Democrats, they're also saying that the economy is getting worse. Some describe the US situation as being more precarious than ever in their lifetime. So basically, the poll findings expose a major disconnect between the way Biden describes the economy and how a majority of Americans feel about it. Biden said Bidenomics is working, but 74% of Americans describe the economy negatively in just one word: either horrible, terrible, bad or poor, struggling or chaotic, compared to with 18% who said that the economy is excellent/good or growing, improving. Another 4% said that the economy is fair/average. To put it simply, a whole lot of Americans are feeling worse off now than when Trump was in office. Case in point, the New York City truck drivers protest to defend Trump and his re-election bid later this year. Now, what about you guys? How are you doing? Do you feel things are better off now or worse than before? Sound off in the comments down below. Let's talk about it some more in the next video. I'll see you guys there. Take care.